Hello, future medical professionals. Welcome to Synapse, your ultimate NEET preparation platform. Today, we are diving into the fascinating world of lichens, those mysterious, crusty patches you often see on rocks and trees. We'll explore their unique biology, from the basics of their symbiotic partnership to their critical ecological roles and advanced molecular insights. Get ready for an intriguing journey through 4 levels of understanding, designed to build your knowledge step by step for the NEET exam. Let's start our journey with the easy level, uncovering the fundamental nature of these remarkable organisms. Lichens are truly unique. They're not a single organism, but a close and long-term partnership, a symbiosis, between two completely different life forms, an alga or cyanobacterium and a fungus. The algal component is called the phycobient, and it's the food producer, performing photosynthesis. The fungal part, called the mycobient, acts like a protective home, absorbing water and minerals. You'll find them almost everywhere on rocks, tree bark, even old walls, often appearing as flat crusts, leafy structures, or tiny bushy growths. In this extraordinary partnership, each component plays a vital role. The phycobient, the alga, is like the chef, tirelessly producing carbohydrates through photosynthesis, feeding both itself and its fungal host. The mycobient, the fungus, is the guardian, providing a safe shelter, absorbing essential water and minerals from the environment, and shielding the delicate alga from harsh sunlight and dryness. This teamwork makes lichens incredibly tough. They are often pioneer species, meaning they are the first to colonize barren rocks, slowly breaking them down to start soil formation. Plus, they are amazing bioindicators, extremely sensitive to air pollution like sulfur dioxide, making them natural monitors of environmental health. Time to test your understanding of the basics. Pause here and try to answer these 3 questions. What 2 organisms form a lichen? Which component of a lichen is responsible for producing food? And why are lichens considered bioindicators? Think carefully before moving on. Ready to delve a bit deeper? In the medium level, we'll explore the different forms lichens take and the intricate details of their partnership. Lichens come in various fascinating forms, primarily classified by their thallus morphology. Crustose lichens are flat, crust-like, and so tightly attached to their substrate that you can't remove them without damage. Then there are foliose lichens, which are leaf-like, flattened, and lobed, often attached loosely by root-like structures called rhizines. Fruticose lichens are the most complex, appearing shrub-like or bushy, often branched, and only attached at a single point, giving them an erect or pendulous look. Beyond these, you might also encounter squamulose lichens with small scales, or leprose lichens that are just powdery. Remember, the thallus is the undifferentiated body of a lichen, lacking true roots, stems, or leaves. The symbiotic relationship in lichens is a marvel of nature, often described as mutualism where both partners benefit. The alga gets protection and a stable environment, while the fungus receives vital carbohydrates. However, some scientists propose a concept called halotism, or controlled parasitism, suggesting the fungus might be farming the alga, keeping it just healthy enough to produce food. Fungal hyphae often develop specialized structures that either penetrate or closely associate with algal cells to efficiently transfer nutrients. This unique partnership enables lichens to thrive in extreme conditions where neither partner could survive alone. While there's some specificity, the algal partners are typically green algae like Trebouxia or cyanobacteria such as nostoc. Lichens reproduce in several ingenious ways. Asexual reproduction is very common, often through fragmentation, where a piece of the thallus breaks off and grows into a new lichen. They also produce specialized propagules like Soredia, tiny powdery clusters of algal cells wrapped in fungal hyphae, easily dispersed by wind. Another type, Isidia, are small, finger-like outgrowths that also contain both partners and can break off. Sexual reproduction, however, is solely carried out by the fungal component, which forms spores, usually within structures like ascocarps. Ecologically, lichens are pivotal in primary succession. As pioneer organisms, they colonize barren rock, slowly breaking it down through physical and chemical processes, accumulating organic matter, and eventually forming rudimentary soil, paving the way for other plants to grow. Alright, it's time for the medium-level practice questions. Take a moment to differentiate between crustose and foliose lichens. Explain the terms phycobiont and mycobiont. Describe two methods of asexual reproduction. How do lichens contribute to ecological succession? And finally, what is the main benefit the fungal partner receives from the algal partner? Good luck! Now, let's elevate our understanding to the hard level, exploring the intricate classifications, physiological adaptations, and deeper interactions within lichens. Lichens are primarily classified based on their fungal partner, reflecting the fungal dominance in defining the overall structure. The vast majority, about 98%, are ascolichens, meaning their fungal component is an ascomycete, forming characteristic fruiting bodies like apothecia or perithecia. Basidiolichens are much rarer, with a basidiomycete fungus. Internally, most lichens have a heteromerous thallus, meaning it's distinctly layered. Typically, this includes a protective upper cortex of dense fungal hyphae, an algal layer where photosynthesis occurs, a loose fungal medulla, and sometimes a lower cortex with rhizines for attachment. This layered structure provides both protection and efficient resource management. Lichens exhibit remarkable physiological adaptations. They are poikilohydric, meaning they cannot regulate their internal water content and simply absorb or lose water depending on the environment. This allows them to tolerate extreme desiccation, surviving in deserts and polar regions. They grow incredibly slowly, often just millimeters per year, but can live for hundreds or even thousands of years. Their efficiency in absorbing nutrients from dust and rainwater allows them to thrive in nutrient-poor environments. As bioindicators, their sensitivity to sulfur dioxide stems from their lack of a protective cuticle and stomata, allowing SO2 to easily enter and damage algal chlorophyll, impairing photosynthesis. They also accumulate heavy metals and radionuclides, making them excellent environmental monitors. The interaction between the mycobiont and phycobiont is highly specific. While a single fungal species might associate with a few different algal species, the reverse is less common. The fungus often forms specialized structures called haustoria that penetrate or press against algal cell walls, facilitating the transfer of photosynthetic products, typically polyols like ribitol, from alga to fungus. If the phycobiont is a cyanobacterium, it adds another layer of benefit by fixing atmospheric nitrogen, enriching the ecosystem. Furthermore, lichens play a crucial role in weathering rocks. The lichen acids produced by the fungus chemically break down rock surfaces, and the physical expansion and contraction of the thallus contribute to the formation of soil, continuing their pioneer legacy. They also serve as a vital food source for animals like reindeer in harsh Arctic environments. Now for the hard-level questions. Pause the video and challenge yourself with these 7 questions. How is the classification of lichens primarily determined? Explain poikilohydry and its significance. Describe the internal structure of a heteromerous thallus. What do haustoria do? Discuss the mechanism of lichens as SO2 bioindicators. What essential resource does a cyanobacterial phycobiont provide? And finally, compare the roles of the upper cortex and medulla. Good luck! Welcome to the hardest level where we'll explore lichens with competitive depth, advanced scientific insights, and their broader impact. Get ready to challenge your understanding. Let's re-examine the lichen symbiosis. While often described as mutualism, the concept of helotism or controlled parasitism suggests a more nuanced relationship. This hypothesis posits that the fungal partner, the mycobient, essentially enslaves the algal cells, consuming some while carefully maintaining a healthy population to ensure a continuous food supply. Evidence for helotism comes from observations where fungal hyphae can damage or even lyse a small percentage of algal cells. However, it's a controlled parasitism because the fungus's long-term survival is directly tied to the alga's health. In most lichen species, neither partner can survive independently in their natural habitat, underscoring the obligate nature and high degree of coevolution within this complex, interdependent relationship. The specific environmental context can also influence the balance between mutualism and parasitism. Lichens are biochemical factories, producing a diverse array of unique, secondary metabolites, often called lichen acids. These compounds, primarily synthesized by the fungal partner, serve multiple critical functions. For example, eosinic acid, found in many lichens, acts as a powerful UV protectant, shielding the delicate algal cells from harmful radiation. These acids also deter herbivores, possess potent antimicrobial properties against bacteria and fungi, and play a crucial role in the chemical weathering of rocks, facilitating primary succession. Beyond their ecological roles, many lichen compounds are under intense scientific investigation for their pharmaceutical potential, showing promise as anti-cancer, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory agents. Their vibrant pigments, also derived from these chemicals, further contribute to their resilience against environmental stressors. Recent advances in molecular biology are revolutionizing our understanding of lichen symbiosis. Genomic studies are now unraveling the intricate genetic basis of this partnership, identifying genes that are specifically activated or suppressed in both partners during symbiosis compared to their free-living states. These studies are shedding light on the complex signaling pathways involved in the initial recognition, establishment, and long-term maintenance of the symbiotic bond. We are also discovering a much broader and often hidden diversity of phycobionts than previously thought, beyond the commonly cited Trebouxia. While the fungal partner usually dictates the overall morphology and structure, reflecting its genetic control, the independent evolution of multiple lichenization events across different fungal lineages highlights the profound adaptive advantage this symbiotic lifestyle offers in colonizing diverse and often extreme environments. Lichens offer powerful tools for environmental science and have a rich ethnobotanical history. Lichenometry is an ingenious geochronological technique that uses the growth rate of lichens to date exposed rock surfaces, invaluable for studying glacial retreat or archaeological sites. Beyond sulfur dioxide, lichens are advanced biomonitors for a range of pollutants, including heavy metals, nitrogen deposition, and even radioactive fallout, employing sophisticated analytical techniques like ICP-MS and chlorophyll fluorescence. Historically, lichens have been vital for indigenous cultures as food sources, like rock tripe, and as traditional medicines for various ailments. They are also a source of natural dyes, such as litmus and urchil, and their extracts, like oak moss, are prized in the perfumery industry as fixatives, showcasing their diverse and enduring impact on both nature and human culture. Alright, future NEET achievers, it's time for the first set of hardest level questions. Take a deep breath and critically evaluate the helotism hypothesis, providing evidence both for and against it. Discuss the diverse functions of secondary metabolites in lichens. How have molecular techniques advanced our understanding of lichen symbiosis? Explain the principle of lichenometry and its applications. And finally, what other pollutants can lichens monitor beyond SO2, and what techniques are used? Pause the video and give these your best shot. And now, for the final set of challenging questions. Describe the evolutionary advantage behind multiple independent lichenization events. How do poikilohydry and other physiological adaptations contribute to lichen survival in extreme environments? Elaborate on how lichen acids contribute to primary succession. Discuss the economic and ethnobotanical significance of lichens with examples. And finally, if a lichen's phycobint is a cyanobacterium, what additional ecological role does it play that a green algal phycobint cannot? You've got this. And that wraps up our in-depth exploration of lichens. We've journeyed from basic definitions to advanced molecular insights and real-world applications. To continue mastering complex topics like this and to access a wealth of study materials, practice questions, and expert guidance for your NEET preparation, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting and informative content. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing towards your medical dreams with Synapse.